Good morning. Welcome to our first yo-yo flight. This is going to be some fun. Since it's the first one, a little bit of what's going on here. A flight is usually, that I know it from, in a whiskey world, usually I have like 4 different bourbons, whiskeys, scotches, or whatever, and you're going to compare and contrast back and forth. Just see kind of what you like and see if you can pick out the differences. So in the yo-yo world, I've got 6 of some like straight to the point organics, very O-shaped, very soft, and I'm going to compare them and contrast them a little bit back and forth. Most of the time when you get a review, it's just that yo-yo, so it's hard to directly compare it to something. This is directly back and forth between the different models. Some of these that I've played before, some of these I have not. Some of them might still be available, some might not. But we do have 6 yo-yos here. A Grail, Butterball, Life, Koi, AL7 Afterlife, and a Bathysphere. I am going to start with the Grail and bounce through. The Grail has the oldest original start date, release date from these. And when people still talk about possibly favorite or floatiest, we're going to try and stay away from that. But organics that they have for their collection, Grail is often mentioned. So, first up, the Grail by ART, released in 2017. Release dates, I didn't search too hard, hopefully they're accurate. Specs here, 56.8 millimeters in diameter, 45 millimeters wide, 63.5 grams. Does have a C-size bearing. These are dad pads. I know that specifically because we used them in the Life when I had the collaboration with Art. Looks like the G2 Ridge bearing, but I think this might be like an NSK bearing. I'm not exactly sure, but C-size bearing. This is one of our larger ones, 56.8. 56 is kind of your full-size yo-yo. This little bit into that larger realm. I still say 55.5 to 58 is full-size before we get to the oversized market. Very a little bit like bouncy, but it has some momentum to it. The best way I can think to describe that right now is it's like a full-size basketball. Those have a little bit of weight to them, but it's a little overfilled, so when you're bouncing it, it bounces a little more than you expect. Like if I was going to base this like speed, it's right there in the middle. Agility, it's a little more agile in the middle, like 7 out of 10 just to give you an idea. Stability, a little bit low. That's probably the most going to be the case for everything in this category, so I kind of expected that. Spin time, decently low, like it's not coming back to my hand with a lot of heat after these short combos. Feel in the hand is nice, the size is nice. It's not a perfect like semicircle. There's a little bit of flattening at the rims before the concave. It's not an even arch all the way through from the groove out. Flat rims on the outside, so you can kind of feel that on your thumb. That's kind of our baseline right there, and it's like very much a baseline, middle of the road, almost across the board. This Butterball now, this is from Atmos, 2024 release. It's smaller diameter, it's 54.15 diameter by 46.8, so smaller diameter and wider, 65.8 grams, so heavier, smaller diameter, wider. Very much has it has a C-size bearing, regular KK in there. Rest in peace to Frank. Not quite an undercut schmoove ring like the Grail has. It's more of just like a step and then flat kind of. Almost looks like there's a slight recess schmoove. Very, very minor if there is one. Very much a little more round. Might even on the edge continue to round down, so the edge of the rim there might not be the biggest part of the diameter. It kind of curves in. Feels good in the hand. It's softer on this edge rim right off the bat, with that being rounded. A little bit wide. The weight doesn't lie. You definitely feel this on the end of the string more. Has better stability. Staying on plane better. A lot more spin time there. So what you're getting here, I think, is a good bit more rim weight with that added extra weight. This doesn't feel as bouncy. It carries its momentum through more. It feels faster. Maybe faster is not the quite word. It feels quicker to get up to speed. I don't know if top end speed would be higher than the Grail, but it's definitely quicker to get up there. It's quicker to get to that top speed, has more momentum to continue, so it's a little harder to adjust, a little less agile. More stability, more spin time. I think the comfort feels good on that thumb with the rounded edge. The width is probably personal preference. I mean, everything's personal preference, but still feels okay to me. We're going to hop over here to the Life. This was made by G2 and Art. So should be similar to the Grail here, based on the Grail CAD, some adjustments made to get to the Life. Original release in 2018. This is 56.7 by 44.58. So very, very close to those Life specs as well. 64.65 grams. It is heavier by a gram. So on this one specifically, I know the design changes, and it has more rim weight. So I'll play it here and translate to what that difference is to right off the Butterball and kind of compared to the Grail. You will notice in those guts, much deeper schmoovering on this than the Grail. So it has a little more rim weight, more stability than the Grail here. You feel the weight. I want to say it plays very close to that Butterball. Not quite as quick to get up to top speed. And with that comes, I think, a little more agility where I can change direction a little easier. Spin time feels like more spin than the Grail. Similar, maybe a little less than that Butterball right there. Now this is more full size. I like that in the hand. It's got the rounded edge but still flat. Similar to the Grail, just a little more round. Right there, it feels like it's dragging a little bit with that extra weight. It's not quite getting up to speed as quick. So when I'm rotating it around my finger there, doing little pinwheels, it takes a little more effort to get it rolling. So a little more momentum still, I would say. Definitely than the Grail, and pretty close to the Butterball there. I want to jump back to this, just to the Grail real quick, to get a feel to compare. Yeah, the Grail is just a hair easier to get rotating around there. Just a hair more bouncy. Definitely more unstable and a lower spin time there, you notice. And I'm wondering, maybe it's that bearing. The bearing's free spinning, so I think it's just the weighting of the YoYo overall. Alright, over to the Koi by YoYo Friends. This is released in 2021. 56 by 43.9, 56.95. So our heaviest yo-yo, and right in the middle for sizing, but our heaviest. Stability's good on this one. So let's look at that catch zone. Catch zone is a little more V-ish, lower wall, so that makes sense on your stability. Gets up to speed just a hair quicker than the Life, I think. Carries that momentum. So, like, I would say it's similar on the acceleration to the Grail. Not as fast as on acceleration, as easy to move as the Butterball, but then it keeps momentum more than the Grail, similar to the way that the Life has more momentum to carry through. Stability and spin time both good. This has got the best stability of the three that I've tried so far. This is number 4. Spin time, similar to the Life and Butterball. I think those are all pretty close together. It can't quite get, I feel like its top end speed might be a little bit lower there, where it is easier to get moving. At that unwrap pace, I feel like it's dragging, it can't quite keep up. Yeah, so I feel like the Life right here has higher top end speed, even if it's a little harder to get rolling. I want to go back to the Butterball too and feel it, because it was the quickest out of the blocks for adjusting, reaching top speed. And it does, it's having that same feeling I get with the Koi, where I'm unwrapping this multiple wrap trick right here. It's struggling to keep up. I can feel it dragging where I wasn't getting that on the Life. It was feeling like it was just right there. As quick as I could go, it could go. Back to the Grail just to test that unwrap. Where I don't have that either with this as much. I would say Butterball and Koi, I get the most drag, then a little on the Grail, and nothing on the Life. It was keeping up completely on that unwrap. So this is for everybody, these are the notes in the whiskey world that I'm pulling out of the yo-yos. All good yo-yos across the board, right? But those are the differences that I'm getting in play, directly comparing. This is the AL7 Afterlife, specifically the AL7 version. It's different than the regular. Released early 2024. This is our largest one, 59 by 44.65, and our lightest as 61.3. Okay, so this is more, I want to say, even though the size is bigger, this is kind of more in that Grail range. With that overfilled basketball bounciness. Slightly more stable. I don't know if that's with the wall change or with the diameter on it. I get a little bit of that drag on the unwrap there from that triple wrap. But it almost keeps up. Spin time, nothing really to comment on it. A little more in the Grail. Probably pretty similar to the others. Stability is, I would say, more than the Grail, but less than those last three. Those other three have more stability. I think this is the bounciest. It's easiest to change direction. It has the least amount of momentum to carry through on those spins. It is the lightest as well, so that goes hand in hand usually. So Afterlife AL7 version, probably your bounciest and easiest to move around, the most agile. Middle of the road, spin time, stability out of everything we played so far. Comfort wise, I didn't really touch on. It's the biggest, so if you don't have a larger hand, maybe that could be a little big for you. but these are all pretty comfortable. Gut-wise, C-bearing, really large schmoove ring. These are my G20 pads. Last but not least, the Bathy Spear. This is collaborations MK1 and Turner. 2022. It's a 55.75 by 44.7 millimeters, 63.6 grams. Now this one does have side effects. I don't think that changes it that much. You can change the center weight, but that's the least changing of a yo-yo. When you change the center weight, it changes the play of the yo-yo the least. So this one kind of hits the bottom pretty heavy. This feels the heaviest. It's not on paper the heaviest. It feels the heaviest. Spin time and stability. I'm going to bounce it back to the Grail. It feels on that end of it, it's kind of okay. It was a little more stable going through there. It's probably on the Afterlife AL7 scale. Spin time a little less than the middle three there, Bathy, Life, and Koi. Okay. It's hard to get up to speed, so that's that quickness factor we talked about. Yeah, it just plays the heaviest. It has the most momentum coming through, so it's this one I would call the hardest or the heaviest to get to adjust. The least amount of agility is what we're going with. So it's kind of like if that basketball analogy, the Afterlife and Grail were overfilled with air. This one kind of feels a little like deflate, a little harder to get moving where you want. I don't get much drag coming out of that little pinwheel move thingy, triple wrap. I feel it there, but I don't think it's dragging like it can't keep up. I think it's just the heaviness of the feeling of the yo-yo. And unwrapping, it doesn't come off plain too much. Comfort's good, very, very bally. This shaping's very similar to, I would say, the Butterball. The Koi is probably the most V-shaped. This is really circular, just like the Butterball, just bigger diameter, less width. So closing thoughts here going down the board. Grail, that is very much still like your middle of the road. Like if you want to judge yo-yos off of something, of organics off of something, and you compare it to the Grail, the Grail's right in the middle on almost everything. Little low on stability and spin time, but on that agility and speed factor, right there in the middle. We'll roll right down. Butterball, that was, I think, our quickest out of the blocks. Got to top speed quickly. I felt like it dragged it at that top speed, though, when I was trying to unwrap it. It kind of hits a top speed that's not as high as the Life and Koi. Comfort's there. It is smaller and wider. Looks like a little, I don't know, it's clean, basic spaceship. Stability was really good, and spin time was really good on that one. Life was pretty similar to that Grail. Longer spin, more stability, a little more momentum, lower on that agility factor versus the Grail. Higher top end speed though when I'm unwinding. I'm not dredging it through. It's not holding me back. So it takes a little bit to get to that top speed, but I think it does have a higher end top speed. Koi, it had the most stability. Spin time was pretty on par with the Life and the Butterball, and I would say that stability comes from the more V-ish, a little bit lower wall. It's not quite as round as some of the other ones when you compare them side by side. So you can actually feel the rims on this one in the hand angled out, where the other ones get to a point that they're pretty flat out there. Speed-wise, it had a little bit of that drag at top end, but was overall kind of, I want to say, a little more on the performance side out of things. I think mostly just because of that stability factor. And you can see it's more rim weighted with the way it has a nipple there. It doesn't have the centering of more mass, kind of the way that the Life, Butterball, and Grail all do, even with the undercuts. AL7 Afterlife, this was our most agile and bounciest, so I think that has to do mostly with that weight, and the weight to size ratio is going to make it the lightest as well. It was the easiest to move around. Spin time and stability, not as good as those three I just talked about, just a hair better than Grail. Feels the lightest of everything, as it should. And definitely the largest, so if you can deal with a larger yo-yo or want a larger organic, that leads itself to that. Almost 2 millimeters bigger in diameter than anything else on the board. That brings us to the Bathysphere. This was the heaviest feeling, not the heaviest on paper. Maybe with the dual rim, took some of that center weight out there to make it like a mid-outer rim weighting. Just played with a heft to it. Had the most momentum when you're rolling through a trick, the least amount of agility to bounce back and forth. So the least on the bouncy basketball scale, the least amount of air. But once it gets rolling, it has that heft. It wants to keep going. That's the momentum carrying it through. It's harder to get it to adjust, to change direction. Stability and spin time were right on par. I would say it's in that Afterlife AL7 version, so kind of that mid-tier on the stability and spin time. Comfort was really, really good. Side effects, take it or leave it. That's a you thing. It doesn't do anything for my personal palate. Hope you guys enjoyed it. That was the first yo-yo flight I've done. Had a good time just running through this gauntlet of great organics. If you liked it, let me know. If you want to, I would love to hear your opinions on other flights to continue doing it. The basic idea behind a flight is having something comparable. So a lot of these were shape and size. You know, it can, as long as there's something that brings them together into the similar flight, outside of their just yo-yos. So it'd be size, price, shape, I don't know, like that's the basics, weight, something in there. But yeah, would love to do some more. I know I didn't get all the organics. There's a ton of them. We can do an organics version too if there's enough suggestions out there. But that's been our first flight. Thanks for watching.